You said a lot of very interesting things there. Fighting for the consumer in the boardroom is one of those things. And in South Africa, in fact, right now, we are faced with very many challenges, and the consumer does need somebody to do that for them. And of course, I'll get into, I suppose the AI bit, but there's also AI and these things that we extrapolate and make guesses about the consumer. What kind of leader does marketing need today to be fighting for that consumer in boardrooms?
Sure.
Lindy-Lou Alexander is a seasoned marketer with over 20 years experience working across various industries, including FMCG, alcohol, and now the CEO of WPP OpenX. And we'll get into the conversation around what makes marketing today, how marketing is evolving, and what we are seeing as some of the changes, especially in Africa. Because as OpenX, they work with Coca-Cola, where they serve 56 different African countries. And as we know, Africa is not a country. Welcome to the Lead Creative. Lindy-Lou, thanks so much for making time to join us in studio, which is something that we usually don't do a lot. Mm-hmm. And you had to travel in Joburg during G20 with the traffic lights not working because it's been raining. So thanks so much.
Oh, my pleasure. And anything for a good marketing conversation, even through the rain and the traffic. So I'm glad to be here.
We appreciate it. So I've mentioned that you worked across various industries and you've worked on many different brands. And now, of course, you work a lot with Coca-Cola, with OpenX. And what I'm curious about is, among all the brands that you've touched and worked with, which one would you invite to a dinner party just for its personality, and why that particular brand?
This is unexpected. Who would I invite to a dinner party for their personality?
Yes.
And why? Okay. I love beverages, and I love the current beverages that I work on, so they have to be at the dinner party. So all of the Coca-Cola, I'm sure. Being that girl. They have to be at the dinner party. Uh-huh. But every party or every dinner table needs a party starter or a conversation starter. So that person would be Smirnoff. I would invite the brand that I launched, Smirnoff Storm, actually. It's ready to drink. So it's the offspring of the family brand Smirnoff. I would invite Smirnoff to the table. Mm-hmm. And why? Because it was, when we launched it, it was new to the world, new of its kind. Yes. All ready to drinks were clear like water, and this one was cloudy. It was ominous. I remember that. It was ominous. And the bottle was chunky and like masculine, but that's what marketeers called it then, like chunky and had presence, versus all bottles were slender. And the content was created a spice in your personality when you had a drink in it. So it was a real party starter. And amongst every dinner table or every occasion, you need someone who breaks the ice and someone who's brave and adventurous. So that is how I would describe that personality of the drink. So the Smirnoff Storm, I would invite Smirnoff Storm to the table.
Yeah, you start the party with a storm. That's one way to do it.
No, but it also keeps the conversation going. It makes sure that everyone's content and happy and not worrying about, the woes of the day, and you're living in the moment.
Yes.
So, yes, that actually, I love that question.
Yeah.
And it probably is because it also probably mirrors a bit of my own personality. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you've had this sort of cross-industry journey where you've seen different phases of different industries in very interesting times for those industries. How do you think that journey has formed the way that you lead and how you think and approach marketing?
Sure. I've been, so 4 or 5 different industries, on average 4 or 5 years each. Gives away my age. How it's formed me, so some brands have been hard. So working on a brand where it's commodities and people are struggling and the economy is shrinking and people cannot afford the basic stuffs in their baskets. So when I worked for Tiger Brands on Albany bread, which is actually one of my favorite brands. So every cycle teaches you about the environment you live in, and with leadership, you need to have situational context and awareness and understanding of the environment, because you can be a great leader, but you might not be the leader that's needed for that time. So I happen to have worked on different brands in different economy cycles against different target audiences that made you have to lean into having compassion for the consumer that you're servicing, being able to fight for the consumer in the boardrooms. Because remember, you are employed as just the marketeer to do what you need to do. But as if you're the brand manager, marketing exec, director, you actually are the protector of the consumer and making sure that you design, you service, or you give something that actually enhances a consumer or client's life. So that in itself builds personality, builds courage, builds it builds your own confidence and belief in terms of what you stand for. So I think earlier on, you're just doing the job.
Yes.
Though I loved you like Dawn and Vaseline and Dove, you love it and it's nice and whatever, and you're young, but as you grow, you go through a life cycle of own maturity. Yeah. You start understanding, you start choosing brands that you believe in or that align with you, which is very much like, the creator economy now. Yes. The influencers, like just choose a brand that really fits with you, that fits your values. And so every cycle has built my leadership capability. But I think for anyone who's in the industry long enough, it should as well. It teaches you how to align your values. What are the values and the personality of the brand? And what are you enhancing about the communities or the people that you're servicing? Though there are a lot of brand marketers that are just doing the job for the job's sake, because that's what the environment, you need to pay bills. You need to pay bills,
You said a lot of very interesting things there. Fighting for the consumer in the boardroom is one of those things. And in Africa, in fact, right now, we are faced with very many challenges, and and the consumer does need somebody to do that for them. And of course, I'll get into, I suppose the AI bit, but there's also AI, and there are these things that you extrapolate and make guesses about the consumer. What kind of leader does marketing need today to be fighting for that consumer in boardrooms?
You need a leader that's courageous. You need a leader that is tuned in, because things change so quickly. Like we lived, it's a digital age. Yes. The context and environment, then the yen is stronger than the dollar. Yeah. You've got to understand where things are going, where the flows, supply and demands are. So you need a courageous and well-read, knowledgeable leader. You need a leader with courage. There are lots of beautiful leaders, and note I'm saying beautiful leaders out there, but you need to have courage. It's because when you stand in the boardroom or when you speak on behalf of the clients or consumers that you service, you need to do it with such conviction. Yes. And that conviction is what will drive you and convince people. So it's an era of courageous leadership that's needed right now. Yeah.
Now, just to get a bit more into the specifics, you've had continent-wide vantage points. Working with Tiger Brands, Vodacom, Standard Bank, now WPP OpenX, working in 56 different countries. What about marketing today do you most enjoy, and how is marketing evolving with so much happening around marketing as you come to know it?
What I enjoy about marketing right now is that we live in a global world. So the globe is our playground. Yes. And everyone is influenced by global trends and nuances. Yet, particularly in Africa, because we are the youngest continent on the globe, everyone is actually so interested in personalization.
I get you.
So it's like, I call it the local.
Yeah.
So like what I'm loving is that you can't get bored. The stories don't have to be the same. And even if you're working on global brands, you've got to localize it. So for me, that is the beauty of a diverse continent like ours.
Yeah.
And I would be bored if I worked in anything that's just too homogeneous and too much of the same.
Yeah.
So that is what I love about marketing in this era.
Yeah. So one of the things that comes up time and time again in the conversations that we have is this idea of localization versus a global brand coming in to South Africa, Tanzania, the DRC, all the countries that you serve, sometimes resonates because of that global, international status about the brand. But at the same time, there's this nuance that you need to understand about the person at a local level. And all the countries I've mentioned, you've worked in, Tanzania, Mozambique, all of these countries, right, and many others. What is it about this local nuance that international or global brands need to understand to remain relevant in Africa? Again, Africa is not a country, so I'm using that sort of, generically understanding this.
Yes. So, and I would like the word global. Global is such a boardroom word. The consumer will call it international, international label, the international labels. And we also, because I also grew up in the era where, Nike is one of the most beautiful brands because it still outstood the test of time. But everyone wanted brands from America, back in the, and before Levi's and brands came in. So internationalism was a sense of differentiation. So in brands, and this is where consumerism becomes important. I love it because especially when I worked in the bank, everything's like, marketing doesn't matter. I'm like, whoa, okay, so you got your wife by just going to say, okay, in the balance sheet X, Y, Z. I said, so you didn't put a nice perfume, didn't cut your hair. You're like, so differentiation is about understanding what drives people. It's about consumer mindsets.
Yes.
So international global brands were important because it was also the brag status, and it comes and it's imported.
Yes.
Now with democratization of the internet, the playing fields are like, oh, okay, where's this brand from? Oh, so you can't brag about it so much anymore.
Yes.
You're like, oh, okay, no, and now e-commerce, I can buy it. So from that perspective is local become more important because consumers have now realized that actually we are also worthy. That's why I'm always in Ankara, always in African clothing. Funny things across the continent. Ankara in South Africa was a special occasion piece of wear.
Yes.
Let me wear traditional clothing. Go across our border, African print is everyday wear.
It's the standard.
It's the standard. So the pride in what is local, in the pride of understanding our own value, the pride in understanding actually supporting local, buying local food versus international food. So local has become appreciated because the internationalism of things have been diminished. So it's about... It's a consumer perspective. So that is the beauty about doing local. So even when when you are very international and global, unless you're sponsored now in this era by a mega star, now mega is celebrity status star, because now there's many macro and nanos and micros. So unless you have a big label, then it's still okay, because I want to be part of the beehive, But other than that, there's a lot of credibility, pride, and brag value in local.
What you're saying is very interesting because we found that exactly when we're doing so I'm part of a team that does a township CX report, and one of the things we found 2 years ago was so we keep asking people, if you had an in-store account, where would you buy, what would you buy? Because most people, especially in townships, buy using in-store accounts, and there was a year when there was this rise of drip, Batu, and local brands, and they were saying 90% of people, I think, said they would buy local brands if those local brands were there. Now, I want to flip this slightly. How does an international brand feel local, tapping into this local nuance, this resonance for local?
That's collaboration. I think it's the oldest marketing trick in the book, which is actually I want to go into Mozambique. Like it's Portuguese. What kind of Portuguese is it? Because actually Angola and Portuguese, it's all different. So let me go in and let me understand which brand people love on the ground. So that's where then they will hire strategists and people that are in the know-how and people like who've done the research in the local environments. And then they onboard you guys to say, okay, how do we make our brand feel like it's part of the community? And that it's connecting with the people. And that's when you do collaborations and you do endorsements as well. So you can have a fantastic big international brand, global brand, depending on how you launch it. And a lot of people are launching it through influencer strategies. But that is also not, like it doesn't last long because obviously influencers come and go and change over. But when you come and you do a collab, and at Standard Bank, we did quite a few collabs with Drip and Batu. So like I've got a whole wardrobe full of them, and people are like, but it's like at a brand level, it was like, no, not just come like win a Standard Bank thing, but it was a Batu Drip sneaker. So, you know, and like, and people are like, when I wear it now, obviously, because what has happened with the brand, like, boss lady. I'm like, but you know, we did support them. So, but collaborations and partnerships is the best way to get in. Because then the local person is also earning some margin on it. Like, you know, so now I'm getting into business, like, it's not just brag value, it's also about enhancing and giving back to the local, you know, creative here.
So we've gone from having a handful of brands in, you know, the FMCG aisles, in the fridges with the beverages that we could have, to a time now where there are so many challenges that have flooded the market, so much so that the consumer has a lot more choice than ever before. Why do you think that established brands, even the ones with established equity, struggle to maintain that loyalty with the consumer, when it's been proven time and time again that even a slightly more expensive brand, if the consumer's loyal, they kind of pay for that. But we are seeing a lot less of that happening, or sometimes in some instances, some brands almost acting as though they are the smaller challenger in their own spaces. How do you maintain this loyalty as a big brand that has been there in times when the consumer is struggling so much and has so much choice?
Sure. I think many boardrooms are having this conversation in the food in FMCG, because the economy is flooded with a lot of choices from the East and everywhere else, and a lot of local players undercutting big established brands. You're very right. And when people are pressed, they don't have cash. It's a share of wallet fight. People downgrade. Yet there are established, strong brands that offer, like the Coke brand that I work on, that offer the best and like the refreshment that is needed, and people will pay for that refreshment and they will trust the brand through, you know, and therefore in their share of wallets, they budget for it. So brand loyalty goes beyond trust. And like, how does a beverage brand earn their trust? It's by being consistent. It's by making sure the formulation is right. It's by understanding, what the consumer needs are. So like offering a sugar-less variety if they need to. So it's a tough one because everyone is, the share of wallet is being fought for hard. But the brands that are strong, that are well trusted and that are consistent and are in the right places at the right time. So part of marketing, which is the 4 7 Ps, which is about distribution. Sometimes if you're not there, out of sight, out of mind. So
very quickly get forgotten.
You can quickly get forgotten. But people will go look for you if they trust you and you are the brand that they believe in. However, there is, like, we're in the era of trade-offs. So where people say, okay, there's something for what they call Mampara week, the week when there's little money, and there's the brand for when we do get money, or the brand for Sundays, because Sundays is the special days. So people are doing trade-offs. It's hard. It's hard, but you need to have a portfolio. You need to have a portfolio strategy.
I get you.
And a portfolio strategy comes in with different sizes and SKUs, different environments, different packaging. So and this is what marketing is all about. When I speak to people, I'm like, marketeers are not just making adverts, guys. You're like, you are looking at the distribution, the SKUs, how do you downsize it? I mean, if I go back 20 years ago when we made Dawn in this small little thing before they were handbag, because actually people wanted the smell of the musk.
Yes.
And it's like, actually, but they couldn't afford the big thing. So you create availability in terms of, okay, people are at the taxi rank, so commuting. And that's where the SKU sizes come in. So you make a smaller can, a bigger can, the bigger 2.5 liters for the tables. So across beverages of FMCG, you've got to have different offerings for different occasions and for different times of the month. Yeah. So, and that's what makes marketing so exciting, but also so complex, versus what people think it's just creating a TV advert.
It's no secret that South Africa is one of the most unequal countries in the world, and that inequality shows itself most visibly in schools, especially in townships and rural areas. That's why as the lead creative, we are proud to collaborate with Threads for Ikasi, a foundation whose cause is close to our hearts. They provide school uniforms, dignity packs, and other essential items to children in under-resourced communities, helping them go to school feeling confident, with pride and dignity. On this show, we talk about how creativity and brands shape the world. Threads for Ikasi does exactly that, shaping futures one child at a time. Because when a child walks into a classroom feeling confident, it changes everything. It changes how they view themselves, how they learn, and it transforms how they imagine what's possible. These are future leaders, future creatives, and future agents of change. To help them show up as their best selves, visit threadsforik.org and sponsor a child today. Let's help them where it matters most. Check the link in the description and sponsor a child. Enjoy the rest of this episode. That has though a lot to do with, I suppose, also the salience, the meaning, the emotional connection that you have with the consumer.
Yes.
A lot of the time though, or sometimes, and I want you to also tap into, your experience working across different countries, because sometimes different countries in Africa, because sometimes there's this debate about price. Like sometimes it's price, sometimes we've spoken about the international sort of brag rights, sometimes it's this.
Yeah.
How do you know where to tap into as a brand, which space to occupy in the consumer's mind at any given time?
So different countries bring their different dynamics. So like when I worked on Vodacom as example, I'm going to go out of into telco. Like you're the dominant player in the environment, and there's benefit in dominance as well.
Yes.
So, here it was just MTN and Vodacom. So here you behave, like you behave like the boss that you are. Then you land, in Tanzania, like, TZ, you also can behave like the boss that you are. Varies depending on the context of the environment. Yeah. So you can go in and it was almost anti-internationalism.
Yes.
Or actually, you're a late starter. So if you have like Orange or someone else who's been there for 30 years, and people, the trust in this is the network we've grown up within. So in here, Southern Africa, it's like, I think Telkom likely, likely would wish we'd say, Telkom was the one we grew up with. Whereas here South Africa is more about internationalism, and we move quicker. Like we adopt like the other brands. Whereas East and West Africa, very different ball game. Egypt some space for Vodafone there, but the environments were so different because it's also about who is the person buying it. So who is the funder?
Yes.
So it's like the end user sometimes and the master user are it's sometimes very different. So if you are the father or you are the one giving the money to everyone, and you say actually go buy Orange SIM cards, and not the Vodafone SIM cards, or not so sometimes you've got to understand how the money flows, which is part of marketing. So the different countries have different dynamics, and doesn't mean because you're strong here and the strategy that you deploy in the east or the west will work in the north.
Yes.
North of Africa is very different. Like the Arabic regions and then the Niger regions, the East Africans are very different and have a high preference for local things and things that have been in their countries for long, and for brands that invest in their country. Hey.
Yeah. What I also find, I guess, interesting about some brands in some countries, and you can, of course, give insight into this, is in some instances, I mean, I've noticed South African brands, banking, supermarket retail, and other spaces haven't really fared well outside of South Africa, especially in West Africa. And some telcos, telcos as well. So there's also this, in some countries, there's also this local is good, international also good, but Africa not so much. What causes this thing? And more so, I suppose I'm asking it from a brand perspective, like what is it that a brand, a marketer, needs to understand about the psyche of people in spaces? Because what I know from a previous company that I worked in is that their thing was collaborate with a local entrepreneur or business or whatever the case is, so that even if you are from outside our country, it feels as though you're local because you've localized through a collaboration or partnership, which is something that you mentioned earlier. What is it that we need to understand as marketers about going into these markets, having understood what you now do about them, and also the different industries are treated differently. A telco and a bank, both of which you've worked with, are treated very differently to a beverage brand that you also work with. Like, what are some of these things that we need to understand as marketers and brands when venturing into these countries or when growing in them?
So market entry strategies differ depending on the sector. So banking and telco, because you have a different dollar balance sheet, it's different conversations at government level. It's different. So from a regulatory and like how you enter, it's like it's long-term planning, and you're not going to just launch in easily at all. So because there's a lot of infrastructure investment, and if there's infrastructure investment, the locals will see, and you'll be supported on the ground. So it's very different, banking and telco. FMCG, as you said, can go in, then it's closing. Like in East and West Africa, like everything outside of Southern Africa, local is best. I put it like the playbook is simple. Local is best, and they need endorsement. Like it's the old strategy about, word of mouth is stronger than all the advertising. So local is best, and unlike the structured Southern Africa financial environment where we run on liabilities because our financial industry is very different. Outside of here, everyone does everything out of cash. So cash, if you think of cash societies, and it's part of the stuff that sometimes we don't think of, I would want to sponsor you as my local corner shop, in Tate, whoever, uncle, whoever, whatever, because you're part of a community. So there's far more community support, I'd put it like that, because it's uplifting the local players. The brands that win there are also brands. So from West and East Africa, you're competing with everything that comes in from the East, because it comes in like via the borders there, and they get landed there cheaper. So the pricing will probably be half of what something that comes in from. I'm going to use ShopRite, the ShopRite Checkers group, that have been the best in penetrating Africa as a retailer. It's like they've got to pay that expensive supply chain all the way up there. So it's quite complicated. And what you land at, you can do beautiful marketing of a most beautiful brand, but if the pricing is not right, and the distribution and the endorsement, and I'm speaking not endorsement like word of mouth endorsement.
Yes.
Oh, this is fantastic. Local, on the ground, almost like old network marketing. On the ground is not there. It's hard to penetrate. It's really, really hard to penetrate unless you have a big P&L and a big balance sheet. And you're going to go in, invest, and probably lost lead for 2-3 years to get the distribution out there. But that in itself is also still not a guarantee of success.
What do you think Africa gets right about brand-consumer relations that sometimes the international market underestimates? Because there are certain things that we get right or that we're better at than our international counterparts, even when going into the same country from another African country versus coming in from the West.
It's a hard question in terms of, from a brand perspective, what we get right is we understand ourselves and we understand what people are like. So we understand what resonates. We understand taste preferences. You would understand how to design the product. And that's why, like, even in teams, you like, please hire local people. Please have local people in your teams that work on it. So we understand that actually consumer understanding and preferences and choice is best used by using local people. So you can be an international company, you come land, but please make sure you employ local people. Because they understand the culture, they understand the context, they understand people's preferences. There are a lot of unsaid nuances. So if you hire local people, you'll be more successful. If you give them the brand and you co-create with them, you'll be more successful than thinking you can land something in from Paris and it will just fly. Unless like it's a fashion brand. So you see, clothing is very, very different.
Also,
very, very different. Yet, like half the time, when I remember when I was in Kinshasa, I'd have to land with one piece of clothing, and then they're like, okay, madam, it's high heels and comme ci, comme ça. And then, because you must understand, Francophone countries they were colonized by the French. And that's something, it's so subtle, but it's so real. So in style and fashion. So dressing and going into a meeting like this, great, it's all authentic, be your authentic self. But the context and the environment is formality. Because they were influenced by the front.
Because you're also doing it for your audience, you're not doing it for you, right?
But I think people, even if you're poor, they've grown up knowing what stylish looks like. So when you are professional, you are stylish with the jacket and everything else. And I remember I was like, so I'd always have to have 2 bags, like one to quick change and whatever, because you need to understand how you need to present yourself. It's marketing. And I often, people that I lead or coach, they said to me, oh boss, like, I remember this girl that I said to her, listen, you need to wear your funeral outfit. For this conversation, and it's at the bank. And she said, what? And I said, and this big afro that you and I both have, it's distracting. And she's like, but you are so authentic, and you say to us, we must carry ourselves. And I said, like, yes, but you guys, you need to be able to discriminate. Watch me during the month. Watch me when I have a tight ponytail, and I'm wearing high heels that pinch my toes that I don't, and I'm like a little bit morose. And I said, because...
I can't imagine it.
And I said, no, but it's because I'm going into that meeting where I have to have a subdued personality, and it's called Marketing 101. You can't shock give the audience something in context of how they like things. It's like awareness, interest, then the desire, and then the conversion. So even in coaching, I tell them use the same, AIDA principles. If you want people to be aware of you, yes, they can. But if people don't like afros and they like straight hair, or they like people that are prim and proper, then, because else they're not going to listen to you. You can be however smart, because they're distracted. And that's naturally how we are as consumers. So, you need to have local teams in your teams that understand the nuances, because it's the quickest way to get to conversion.
I get you.
So conversion is not just about what it tastes like and what it looks like. It's what it means for me in this environment, and who else to better understand the environment of someone who is of the same or similar culture or lives within the community. Yeah.
So we've had many conversations here on the show about insourcing versus outsourcing. And I mean, I mentioned the brands that you've worked with, and I know that at the times that you worked in these brands, let's start with the telco space. At the time when you worked in telco, there was a lot of bring everything in-house because telcos have all the data. In fact, I spoke to someone who was the CMO of Vodacom, and one of the things was that they were going through the cycle of insourcing now because we have all the data, we understand the consumer, we know how many times you use your phone, how much. Giving this data to an agency only weakens our position, doesn't strengthen it, right? So there is that. But in some instances, the very same brands tend to outsource to an agency the very same function. I know that in banking as well, there was a wave when digital was coming in, when banks were building their own in-house digital teams, taking work away from digital marketing agencies and doing it themselves. And then there was a time when they were outsourcing the same work. So 2 questions there. The first one is, what drives this cycle in your view, and what do on either side, brand and agency side, what do they underestimate about getting the work or insourcing the work or even outsourcing the work?
Sure. So I was at Vodacom when the global mandate came to insource everything. So that's 8 years ago with the lady Lana and I were there. So which was insource everything that is digital, because as you the context was we own the data, we've got all of the information, we can see all the IPs, we know, and we don't want to give that to anyone. And actually, it's control and cost management. Yeah. So it was and it was the infancy of how do we work with so much data? So that was. And I don't know if it's still insourced or not there. Yeah, so that was the emergence then, and everyone was like, okay, let's insource everything. And insourcing was on the basis of control and building your own database. Yes. And not understanding that actually you can protect it. It can be in a walled garden. Now I'm at an agency, but prior to this same conversation, I'd also was the proponent of okay, let's insource everything into the bank. When I joined, we had 2 digital marketing people. When I'd left, we set up a whole squad of 25 people, and we were still going to do the whole insourcing of everything. I subsequently left, and I work at one of the agencies that we were contracting with, as an example, to insource the freelancers. It's the weirdest thing. And now I'm sitting in an environment where obviously FMCG, very, very different to telco and banking's conversation, where it reminds me of why growing up in FMCG, I still think is the best marketing industry to grow up in, is that be the master at your skill set and do what you do great, well. Yes. So, and if you are great at doing marketing and you're great at building product portfolios, unless you obviously you're going to buy out the consulting and really, set up a whole data center, I would not say insource it. And people say I'm biased because obviously as the agency, we want to service you, but it was on the basis of cost and control, and let the experts manage what they know how to manage, because unless you're going to set up a whole new cost center and you guys you can manage it, it's not best. And a lot of data specialists do not want to be stuck in a corporate. This is where they want the flexibility of, okay, I'm working on this project, and then they move on. Get you. They're working. So now that I'm on this, in the agency environment, and we run a flex model, so we work with a lot of freelancers across the globe. Yeah. Someone is in India, someone is in Argentina. There was one day I was to my team, change this quickly, and they're like, oh no, this person is sleeping, and I'm like, why are we using someone in Peru? So I'm like, oh my goodness.
Why are we using someone who's sleeping to begin with?
Yeah. No, so they're like, hey boss, go do what you do. Let us do what time do you want it? So data specialists, and especially now in like the AI world, they do not want to be stuck working on one brand or sector for too long. So if you in-house it, then you're going to have churn.
Yes.
You'll have churn very often. Whereas if they work with an advertiser, like a network like ours, they know that actually there's rotation available. And because there's fatigue, there's just so much fatigue that comes around now. So it depends on, like, it's the error and where everyone was misunderstanding the cost efficiencies. Businesses are driven by the bottom line. It's all costs. So having been on both sides, but keep things, do what you do, keep your superpower and do what you know well, great, and outsource or collaborate, because there could be a different partnership agreement. Doesn't mean you have to outsource it specifically with people that are specialists. Keep the specialists doing what they do well and understand the people, I call them the nerds. And the nerds do not want to necessarily get stuck. So I speak to some of them who have crossed over because corporates pay phenomenally well, you know, with big bonuses and whatever, and they sign you up and they pay very, very well. And they're like, oh, I'm bored. Or I wish I didn't over, because now how do I get back into freelancing? So freelancing and keeping it at a partnership supplier is my recommendation, probably best.
So I've asked this question again to many sort of many marketers, and I guess you've spent a lot more time than most people I've spoken to on both sides, as in the insourced, outsourced bits. And the argument, or at least the debate that I like to raise, is this idea that the reason agencies work so well with brands is because the people inside an agency today work with a banking brand, tomorrow work with a clothing brand. And because they see all these different trends, it keeps them sharp and it brings the insights into the work. And inevitably, as a brand that's insourcing your work, you are insourcing you are hiring from these agencies or people who have agency background or that kind of experience. How do you keep that creativity fresh when you've had this person now here for a year, for 2 years, and they are no longer seeing as many brands, as many nuances as they usually see? Now, this is in the case of, I suppose, insourcing. Well, how do you make the argument for insourcing when you realize that, or do you still keep it fresh? Because if someone works at a bank, there are so many things to do in a bank, so many different types of accounts, so many different types of things. Maybe you are able to?
So if I were at a bank or a telco and I did set up the insourced thing, some operating models, let me not call it a thing. What I would do, and what I did a little bit of during my time, is rotation. So you rotate people because you're like, okay, I think, you know, Mongezi needs to go over to CIB, or he's done personal banking, now needs to be private banking. Rotation. So, but the rotation thing is something I learned at Unilever, you know, when they're like, okay, you know, this person is now tired, or this person has it's like repeat, succeed. And when people, it's the same thing, it's like, you're like, okay, you think you're a great marketeer, go repeat the same thing elsewhere. No, this is like, okay, boss, I've done this. Like, no, I want the promotion. I'm like, okay, a strategy takes about 2 to 3 years. Back then, now it's contracted. Go and repeat the success elsewhere. So the only way to keep the in-source team motivated is by putting them on different projects and rotating them through the different portfolios and different segments. But you should also plan the structure that actually you will have them exit maybe in 2.5, 3 years, because you do want fresh blood. You actually set the model up that actually this is the average tenure. Perhaps you'll have 3 or 4, if you want to call it the seasoned leadership layer, because you want IP to remain. But then you must also remember that, okay, how am I going to keep that person fresh? So am I going to send them on the Harvard course? Am I sending them to Singapore? Like, you know, for continued education. Because you can't do that. It will be very costly to do it through the whole team. But you set up the team, with the intent that you want churn
Yeah.
at a certain point,
Yeah.
but you must like finish off a project, then rotate.
Yeah.
So you set it up with people knowing that it's a rotational system.
Yes. And of course, this is a great segue to my next question, because you now lead a team that is a bit of a hybrid model that sits somewhere between an independent agency that's embedded within the sort of the bigger brand that's multidisciplinary, that has all of these kinds of talents and offerings that it provides to the brand. How does this influence collaboration, decision making, and creativity, this kind of model? Because it's an interesting one in the sense that you haven't really insourced, but it doesn't feel like you've outsourced when the team focuses a lot on you as Coca-Cola or as a brand.
Yeah, we are a wholly owned operating model that has been set up for the Coca-Cola Company. The model I run is for the Africa unit, Africa operating unit. So the agency people like reminding me that I'm a corporate agency because I don't hunt for business.
Yeah.
We purely work across the Coca-Cola portfolio. So the WPP network offers the best of its capabilities that's needed by Coke. So Coca-Cola was smart in seeing that actually we do what we do well in terms of brand marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
The agency aspect, let's go find the best partner with all of the best capabilities. So from digital, from production,
Yeah.
from social,
Yeah.
from creative, from media buying and planning across the continent. So let them do what they do well for us, and we continue with marketing. So it's a partnership. It's a strong, deep partnership.
Yeah.
And the cooperation and collaboration is what makes it successful. So we are an extension of the team. We are the team.
Yeah.
So we are the in-source team without them having to worry with the basics of running this entity well. So I'm 100% accountable to the vice president. We are 100%, the team works. So the team that work in OpenX Studio X work 100% on Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So we do rotation amongst the brands as an example, but we are an extension of the team. Yeah.
So working on a brand as big as Coca-Cola in 56 markets gives you a lot of data as well as, I suppose, creativity. So there's this sort of merge between scalable data and creativity that kind of live together. What has this ecosystem, this model kind of shifted in you as a marketer who was already seasoned coming into this?
Sure. It's a beautiful question because I say to people that I needed to be here to understand all the learnings coming together as one. Because working with data across the continents, so why is 56, it's 54 and the 2 islands, in terms of where the distribution of the product is. We don't necessarily, so we do playbooks and toolkits that get allocated to all of the countries. And in some of the countries, they can localize it. So what this has done for me has been, it's allowed me to remember the diversity of the continent and individuals.
Yes.
And that you don't necessarily have to work across different countries to remember that no human being is the same.
Yeah.
You can be in the same small location, suburb, and environment, that people are unique.
Yes.
Have different desires and preferences, and that the we think that the data is all different, but there's cohorts of similarities in all data. And you can do cohorts from the Reunion Island to Mauritius to, like northern to southern.
Yeah.
You can actually extrapolate and draw similarities to help efficiencies in marketing. Yes.
So Coca-Cola, you mentioned Nike earlier. Coca-Cola, like Nike, are those brands that have always been in our lives in some way or another. We experience them in sort of different ways. And also we love them I suppose, like in some ways, there's this sort of brand love that if anything else, if nothing else, then a Coca-Cola, if nothing else, then a Nike, if nothing else, then there's always a fallback brand that you kind of work on.
Yes.
And now we've got AI, of course. Does AI, with this scale of data that you have, this scale of knowledge that you have about the continent, widen or shrink the creativity gap?
I've got to sit here with my agency hat and my marketing hat and my personal. So, the internet, which democratizes information, like makes everything easier. So therefore, with AI, I've got to be the logical person that's like, you can reach quicker, further, and test things easier because of the internet, and therefore AI does make things easier. So marketeers that work with AI are the ones that are going to be here for the longest of time. And that's why, as an agency and working with an important and a heritage brand like we do, we've got to employ it to deliver efficiencies and to be effective. So it doesn't widen the gap. It makes things easier. We've got to remember the humanity in it.
Yes.
So when we're doing the work that we do, but like it's undoubted. I'd be stupid if I sat here and said no. Like it makes our marketing lives and deployment of work and test and learning much quicker and easier. Yeah.
One of the things that has come up in different conversations about AI, especially in Africa, is that AI doesn't really understand, doesn't it understand Africa much. The argument is that it kind of doesn't. There isn't enough data or information that's been fed. And of course, you have this experience of 56 countries and being able to scale and test and learn using AI. How well is it doing? How well is AI performing? Is it learning quickly enough? Is it able to, does it enable you to almost get into different markets and test and learn quickly, or are there some and not others?
So you've got to build the AI agents, and you've got to build the algorithms. You've got to build it. So we are at the point where we are testing and learning for Coca-Cola globally, and on the African continent. On some pieces of work, it's like very quick and very fast. The African continent is very much a relational and a people's continent. So obviously, there's the legalities that are coming into play with me taking Mongezi's face, and it's our level of trust is different on the African continent. I'm going to say not even African, eastern side of the globe, from here, from Africa to the east, where we are very embedded in like the social norms and touch and feel. So amongst Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So, and most of the beverage brands are against Gen Zs. Like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, obviously early adoption of everything, and they like, they are also the cocooner kids. So they care less about interaction and affirmation or social confirmation. So we'll see where the world goes with that. But on the African continent, we are still a relational continent. So we still want to see a lot of human in it. So we are still looking for a lot of humanity. So you'll do the AI for efficiency and effectiveness of perhaps just the product. But is this really the real Mongezi or not? Like, is this Lindy-Lou really or not? So I think the adoption will be in two phases. And as a brand, we need to use it to employ and deploy quickly. But on the African continent, particularly the African, probably less so on the northern Africans, not Algeria, Morocco, because it's more they form part of the Middle East. So just like South Africa is like the New York of the rest of Africa, very, very developed. But if you go into our townships and communities, they care very much for like did Mang Mang say so? Is it really? So the trust is still by endorsement of other people and other humans.
Yeah.
So brands have got to be very careful with that, because you can run away with it and it's like fantastic, it takes off, or you can, like, there could be a complete uprising against, like, oh, actually this is anti-humanity. It's not. There's no feel in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a 50-50.
Yeah. Lindy-Lou, there was a lot in our conversation that I'm sure will be invaluable for our viewers and listeners. We usually have a question where our previous guest or one of our guests passes the mic to one of our other guests.
Okay.
And one of our previous guests was the CEO of Ogilvy South Africa, Pete Case.
Oh, my colleague.
Yes. Yeah. And the question that he left, rather, I'll start with the context. So Pete believes that the industry has a responsibility to invest in young people and talent. I know that you are very passionate about youth development and developing young leaders as well. He says Ogilvy South Africa does this through a program that employs 47 young people that are on fully subsidized salaries. His question is, what can you do in your business to meaningfully invest in the next generation of talent?
So his question, what can I do? So WPP, obviously, coincidentally, Ogilvy is a WPP agency.
Yeah.
And I work a lot with the Ogilvy team. So what we can do to meaningfully invest in young people or the youth of the continent or the country is to truthfully go out and give the free education where it matters. And when I say where it matters is there is an expense for people to come into the suburbia or come into where Woodmead is, etc.
Yeah.
So it's almost going into those environments and making the education come to the people.
Right.
So, so meaningfully invest in setting up like they do with the mobile clinics and stuff. I would say, meaningfully invest by having mobile training centers that come like two people and sit there for 3 or 4 months, qualify and certify them, and then leave.
Right.
So for me, that would be like a real meaningful way of bringing the skill, because there's also value in exposure. So, some people are not like, they don't know what, the animator and videographer does, and a lighting specialist, like, my daughter goes to AFTA, so I know about all of these things. But if this glass box, I'm going to call it, if we were doing this as a glass box in, a township or a poorer suburb area, like someone who had not, they hear of it, they see it because they watch a lot of, Netflix and stuff, but then like, what is an animator? Like, what is the cinematographer? A cinematographer is not, we thought it's the cinema. Yeah. Do you understand? Yeah. So there's also lessons in exposure. So taking the training, like in a mobile concept, I think it's as simple as that. Bring it to the people. And we might think, okay, it's so much because only 10 or 20 people will do it for that weekend, for every weekend. But it's about the conversation starters around there. And people seeing that, oh, okay, that's a real job. Oh, okay, that's something different. I didn't think of it, Yes. I have my cheap phone and I like taking beautiful pictures. And then they're like, oh, okay, so conversation. So young people need more exposure to stuff. And we think, well, because they're on their phones, they've got exposure. It's not that. Seeing me, you, and seeing the teams of people doing and delivering, it's like, okay, that's a job. Okay? So that would be my advice.
So now, Lindy-Lou, it's your turn to pass the mic to our next guest by leaving a question for them around their thoughts on creativity, marketing, their creative process, maybe even life for that matter.
Okay, so this is nice because it's just an open. So my question to the next guest would be What is the marketing legacy that you would want yourself to be known for? Like, known for, but that you would have impacted at least 5 people with in the next 5 years. I like things. So what's the marketing legacy so that they would want to be known for now in the next 5 years? And as well as, if I'm doing a double one, what are they doing to ensure that 5 people are living towards that legacy of theirs?
Yeah. Lindy-Lou, thank you so much for making time to talk to us here on The Lead Creative. Really appreciate it. There's a lot out of that, but I think bringing it to people, localizing, collaboration, and I think collaboration at scale as well is a very important one that you brought up. And I think I take away the fact that do what you do and be great at it and master it and be the person to go to for that thing, or the brand to go to for that particular thing, as opposed to trying to be everything, all things to all people.
Yes, like really. Yeah.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Fantastic.
And thank you for watching The Lead Creative. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever social media you prefer. And yeah, we really appreciate you as well.